first book I want to start with is actually What's in It for Them. It just came out recently. The author's name is Joe Polish, founder of Genius Network, probably the godfather of all things marketing and networking. It's almost like a reimagining of how to influence people. And one of the most interesting aspects of this is it made me rethink the way that I was doing relationships. I think a lot of us can probably resonate with this, where you feel like you're giving a lot to people. You feel like you're helping, doing free coaching, you're helping people out, you're connecting people, but nothing seems to be coming back. And one of the things I realized after reading this book is that there is such a thing as giving to the wrong people. There was a moment as I was reading this book that I realized some of the people in my current network, some of the people that I've helped out, so on and so forth, it's more of a parasitic relationship, and it's probably not the best for me. It's not going to serve me or them, really, at the end of the day. It had me going through some of my current partnerships, some of the current people that I constantly refer out to people all the time, and I don't get anything back from them. And it makes you question, is this the right thing for me? But also, it helps you give a roadmap to how you can best serve other people by thinking more about what's in it for them than what's in it for you. And I think, again, if we approach sales this way, we approach marketing this way, and constantly think in the forefront of our mind, again, what's in it for them? What problem are we looking to solve for them? Who can I connect them to? I think it'll make you a better entrepreneur in general. So the next book, Michael Singer wrote this book called The Untethered Soul. One of the most fascinating things about this book is, and I think every entrepreneur needs to know the tactics, right? Like, you need to pick up books about sales, about marketing. But I think for every other book that you read about tactics, you should read something around how do you build resilience? How do you better get control over your emotions and how you look at things, and just challenge the way that you look at the world in general. And so Untethered Soul is one of those books. So Michael Singer, I think what's fascinating about him as an author and as somebody that's writing about these concepts, he was a super high level founder and CEO. And so I always look at people that talk in these kind of woo kind of ways, and I'm like, okay, well, you're probably not making money and you're probably unhappy in your life. But then when you find somebody that's not only well balanced in terms of their relationships outside of work, but also highly successful at what they do, you're probably best to pay attention to some of the things that they're saying. So in this book, I think one of the biggest key takeaways was the idea that you are not your thoughts and you are not your feelings. He gives this example where obviously in philosophy, they talk a lot about, I think, therefore I am. I think it was Descartes. That was the whole premise of finding out how you know you are real. I think, therefore I am. And what Michael Singer goes on to talk about in this book is that I think and I am are two different people. You have the thinking you, which is maybe the self-doubt, which is maybe the constant overthinking. You have that person, and then you have what we could maybe say is your true self, right? Who's in the present moment, who isn't judgmental, all those things. And so one of the things that was kind of fascinating how they're describing this concept was pulling away from what's the crazy chaos that's going in your mind. It gives you this really cool roadmap on how you can step back and realize, oh, those are just crazy thoughts I'm going through right now. Where's this coming from? No judgment, just observing, becoming the observer of like a 50,000 foot view of what's going on in your head. And it allows you to kind of bring order to chaos, so to speak. And one of the most fascinating things and key takeaways for me, and I want you to practice this on your own, which is when you're going through those moments, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes I'm overanalyzing something going on in my business, and I replay a conversation maybe 1,000 times, and there's this weird loop going on. But when you read the book, you start to realize you can, in your mind, imagine yourself stepping back from that conversation and just observing what's going on. Not saying stop, not saying I want to end this conversation, whatever, but simply pulling back and observing. And this is weird thing that happens. The conversation goes away. The dialogue goes away and it gets silent. Again, one of the most fascinating books I've read. But again, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you're a coach, whatever you are, I think it's really important to balance out the tactical stuff that you read with the mindset, with the resilience, with the how do you be more conscious as a human being, mainly because, again, like this road to building a successful business doesn't just come from tactics. The final book I wanted to talk about, Evan Carmichael, Built to Serve. This is not his newest book. His newest book is called Momentum, but it's a little bit of an older book, but I love it because it gives a roadmap to finding your purpose. And what I really love about it is most business books and entrepreneur books, they all talk about making money, right? Let's make more money, let's make more money. And when Evan did that was unique was he started from the premise of let's find your purpose. Let's find the thing that you love doing, that you could do every single day, that you could do and forget to eat, and it happens to make you money. And he's this really cool activity in there which talks about finding your through line or finding your purpose. And so basically what he does is he asks you to go through the biggest pain points of your life, the biggest pain that you've experienced in your life. Then he asks you, okay, who's your favorite teacher? And then next you ask, what's your favorite movie? And when you do this activity, what's super fascinating is either it will affirm what you think your purpose is, or maybe it'll get you in a different direction. And I'll give you my example as I went through this activity. So the first thing is the greatest pain in my life that I experienced was being a victim. Basically, growing up, we were evicted a lot. My dad had went to prison. My mom was struggling to pay the bills and all these things. And so it was a very painful experience for me growing up. And I was kind of stuck in this victim mentality. Because of that, I couldn't elevate my own life. My favorite teacher was a guy named Mr. Kopp. But what Mr. Kopp did for me that was fascinating was one day after we got evicted from our house, I ran to the school, to my elementary school. He was my 5th grade teacher. I told him what happened. He grabbed all like these tarps. We drove to his house, he grabbed tarps and he covered all of our personal belongings that were on the front lawn with this tarp so it didn't get rained on. The very next day when I went to school, he acted like nothing happened. He never brought it up. We never talked about it. He treated me like every other kid. And he continued to be this hard-nosed, strict teacher that I had. He constantly laid down the law. If I screwed up, I didn't go to recess. Like, he gave me no favors. And so he was my favorite teacher because he was the first person to help me remove excuses. And then fast forward to what my favorite movie is, which is kind of funny, but it's Forrest Gump. My favorite movie is Forrest Gump. Okay, why? Because it's about a man who's too dumb to know that he can't do something, right? There is no excuses for him. So there's a through line you'll see, which is my greatest pain point was believing that I was a victim of my life. Favorite teacher, favorite movie, everything, the through line you find is no excuses. So when you think about, like, for me, the purpose that I have is to help people remove obstacles and excuses as to why they can't realize they deserve more. That's our purpose with Elevated. And so it was kind of cool to go through this exercise. So my point is, in this book, it helps you identify your purpose, because it's his belief as well as mine that if you lean into your purpose, if you're aligned with your purpose, you will make more money. It comes. But the problem is a lot of individuals start companies starting with, how do I monetize this? If you start there, you probably already lost. As always, we have more training right here in the description below. We have tons of tools, information. Stay motivated, stay elevated.